Okay, a few more technical difficulties happening. Rotate your device, it says. Let's see, we're going to rotate the device and see if this works again. Apologize for that. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk, kind of take up where we left off, and that's the thyroid issue. Hypo versus hyper. Hyper, of course, is where you're really running, the energy in your body is really running high. That's where you're going to have a rapid heartbeat. Your heart, it feels like it's beating out of your chest. You might have problems with, you're sweating all the time because metabolism is so far up. And then, of course, weight loss is many times significant. But that's going to happen in the hyperthyroid state, or, possibly Graves' disease, which is the autoimmune component. Just like the autoimmune component of hypothyroidism is, of course, Hashimoto's. So it's really key to differentiate those, and getting on to the antibodies. The antibodies, like we talked about, discovering if someone has a thyroid problem earlier. Like I said, you could have symptoms as far as your menstrual cycles and things that are happening really young, that you're having so much pain and discomfort when you have the menstrual cycles that you actually have to be put on the birth control pill. So that's really kind of one of the early symptoms. Understand that kind of like thyroid problem, developing thyroid problem, is almost like, God forbid, cancer. That means many times by the time they find cancer, it's been there 8 to 13 years. Well, it's a similar type of scenario with thyroid problems. The thyroid goes into this minor dysfunction state and then continues to build up until it is a full-blown hypothyroidism, or the autoimmune component known as maybe Hashimoto's, or the hyperthyroid, which is known as, of course, as Graves' disease. So when we look at the things that we should really look out for, we should look out for, okay, do you have any sugar dysregulation issues? Do you have what we call insulin resistance, which means you're having a hard time losing weight? You've tried everything. You've tried the yo-yo diets. Maybe you tried Jenny Craig, maybe you tried Nutrisystem, you seem to do well for a while, and then all the weight comes back. Well, that's kind of like, that's your thyroid not really working and functioning properly. And of course, the foods we eat are also going to contribute to that. So the thyroid gland, is located, if you look at me, of course, I got an Adam's apple, but there's where the thyroid, it's a butterfly shape of gland down here. Now, what you want to look at is the other symptoms is kind of like, look at the size of your neck. Do you have a thick neck? If your neck is thick, or if you have just a little mound in here, and many times it's going to be equal on both sides, or it could be one-sided, but for the most part, I'm seeing both sides. We're going to see maybe a goiter going on there. That is a sign that we have thyroid issues going on, still rotated, huh? Mm-hmm. So we're having problems. Am I upside down, or what's happening
just like
here?
that.
I'm like that.
On the string.
You mean I'm straight up and down?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And we're a little kind of confused why that's happening, huh?
Yeah.
It's annoying to look at then, isn't it?
Yeah, because you have to look like that.
You have to look up?
Like this.
Okay. You got to look sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can we try to fix that while we are live? Let's try it. Is it this right here, or no, that's a hands up type of thing? What does this mean here, huh?
That's just to make
that's just the colors. Okay. And this is the phone.
we use all the time.
Okay, let's try that again. Tell me if that's any better, Rosa. Sideways, but info is important. Thank you, Brenna Kelly. Yes, indeed. So when we are referring to the, how are we doing now? Still discombobulated, huh? Is it the eye there or something like that? Is that the eye? Oh my gosh, that's way too high.
Oh, look.
Huh?
Marianne commented.
I know, that was kind of cool, but how do we do something so I don't look like smaller person? Tell me how that is. Is that any better? Okay, so we're getting a little feedback here. Hopefully things are getting better as far as the phone. Technical difficulties. Well, that's what happens. So hopefully you can see me. I'm standing up straight, and you don't have to be turning sideways. I think we've had this happen before. Brand, yes. So we are okay. So other things to stay away from, of course. Are we good now?
I can just record you like that, or just stay like that.
Am I like this? I think let's
It's
stay
still
like this.
dealing over there. It's back.
It's still back.
It's slowed down back there, so I can't tell yet.
You mean the speech is slowed down? It's delayed, you're saying?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that what it
delayed.
is? Okay, so we got a delay going on. All right, so let's talk about foods. Foods that are really bad for the thyroid. One of the foods that is really bad for the thyroid is wheat, okay, which is gluten. Now, a lot of people don't say, well, I don't think I have an issue with gluten, which is, of course, part of the wheat, which gluten really means glue. That's what keeps, the bread together. That's what it is. And the biggest issue is that the wheat has changed. Wheat has changed over the years. In the 70s, it went to a hybridized changes, okay, which made it more concentrated, the gluten. So it went up, 400 times greater as far as concentration of gluten. But also the fact that when you eat the wheat, they actually spray Roundup. Now, Roundup is an herbicide. If you've ever heard of Agent Orange was used in Vietnam, and they used that to kill the weeds, destroy the weeds where the enemy was hiding behind. Well, that, of course, had terrible implications on our soldiers as well as the other side, of course. And it led to genetic defects where those people that were exposed to their children, God forbid. So we don't want to use that. They use this as part of the drying agent prior to harvesting the wheat. That's what they're doing. And you can blame Monsanto for that. So it's not such a good thing. When you take that in, that acts like the strongest antibiotic possible. What it's doing, it's killing off all your good gut bacteria. And it's really who we are. That is the most important immune system function is in the gut. When you think of the 60% of your immune system, then 70, now I'm hearing 75% of your immune system is in your gut. That's how critical your gut is. So I say stay away from wheat because unfortunately what that does, it passes into our bloodstream, the gluten, and now it activates our immune system. So think of the Pac-Man. I don't know if you remember that game, back in probably the 80s or 90s. But the Pac-Man, our immune system response is trying to identify that gluten and, of course, destroy it. But what also takes place is that your thyroid tissue and the gluten are similar. So the thyroid tissue is being munched upon as well. So what happens is your thyroid function goes up and down. It means you can go through periods of hypothyroidism, periods of hyperthyroidism. Sometimes you feel really good, other times you feel like garbage, right? So we say away from wheat. Even Harvard ran a study, and Harvard running the study showed that gluten causes intestinal permeability. What that means is it is actually destroying your gut health. Now, they didn't say gluten is bad for you. They said that anybody, any mammal, which we are, of course, is going to have intestinal permeability problems. So what do we say? Stay away from gluten. Now, just because you stay away from gluten and you eat all these gluten-free products, well, that's not necessarily a good thing either, because the reality is gluten-free products ultimately turn into sugar. It's refined, whether they're using rice flour, potato flour, or tapioca flour. A lot of these are turning into rapid sugar. So the gluten is an issue. Another thing is corn. You cannot find corn. Well, I take that back. There was corn that was non-GMO corn at Costco, and I think there was a different place. But think of it this way. Corn has really no nutrient value. So when you look at a cow, how do they fatten the cow? Well, a cow typically eats grasses, and that's the omega-3. That's our essential fatty acids. So when we talk about eating meat or a cow, it's not really bad. It's when they've been injected with hormones, antibiotics, and of course have been fed the corn, which is many times they're not going to feed them non-GMO corn. They're going to feed them regular, the genetically modified or genetically engineered corn. But what the corn does to the cow, this is how it gets heavy, it shuts off 3 of the 4 stomachs. That's how it does. So it bloats the cow up, and of course now they're getting more, price per pound. What does it do to us? It does the same thing. It bloats us up and, causes all kinds of gastro distress. I say stay away from corn. Many times it's going to be eggs. Eggs can be an issue with thyroid sufferers, and I've seen in our practice here where we've had patients that actually had migraine headaches, and we kind of did the food elimination process, and it wasn't until we eliminated the eggs that the individual noticed, wow, I don't have the migraines anymore. So there was a food sensitivity issue going on there. Now, sugars of course is horrible. They're just super bad because they're so destructive, leading to diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, you name it, to a lot of neurodegenerative diseases. So sugars are really something that you need to avoid. What can you use in substitute? Stevia, which is an herbal sweetener, which is better for you. You could use xylitol. Xylitol is a sugar, it's an alcohol sugar, which they use for prevention of dental cavities. That's been known. Peanuts you need to avoid because peanuts are not really a nut family. They're really a legume, which is the bean family, and they many times have a lot of mold. Soy is a huge issue. Soy is really mostly genetically modified, but what soy does, it raises the phytoestrogens. We were just at a seminar recently, and sure enough, flaxseed even, which I thought was okay, but we could see the increased vascularization in women's breast tissue, and that's women or men, but this was specifically all about women, this seminar. And increased vascularization, that's all part of tumor formation. So you never angiogenesis, which means that's the developing of new blood flow to the area. And then the dairy. Dairy can be an issue with so many people. So there's a lot of sensitivities that happen there. If you've had gas, bloating, stomach pain, it's a good thing to stay away from that. So those are the 7 foods which are really critical. Balancing blood sugar, super important. Super important. If you have any lightheadedness, you have any dizziness, you get any headaches, you really want to be off the sugars and try to get that balance. You're better off eating good quality fats. And this is an important thing. Fats do not make you fat. It's really the starches, it's really the grains, it's the sugars that make you fat, because that is, of course, your body's going to go into more fat storage. Vitamin D levels need to be optimally in the 60 to 80 range. Typically speaking, most people are really low, which is kind of sad because now they're finally starting to do the blood levels, and when we look at the reference range on lab, it can be anywhere 30 to 100. Well, we know that 30 is horrible because that predisposes you to the autoimmune diseases, whether it be the thyroid autoimmune, whether it be ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or maybe rheumatoid arthritis, or dementia and Alzheimer's. You're really, in a weakened state when your vitamin D levels are low. In reality, the research that's recently been done was even showing people in the 40s are still not in a good level because there is a tendency for early Alzheimer's and dementia, and who the heck wants to lose their mind, right? Okay, we need plenty of omega-3s. Where are we going to get that? Wild fish. If you don't like fish, the most important fish would be like sardines. The smaller the fish, the better, because the higher omegas. A lot of the good quality, foods that you can purchase, that's real important. Tuna, tuna can have some of the heavy metals in there. So look at the different fish, the smaller fish. Even the skipjack tuna is a better one from what I understand as far as not having the levels of the heavy metals in there. There's borage oil, there's gamma-linolenic acid, which is actually found in beef, and that's what they found to be helpful as far as weight control. GLA it's called. Oleic acid, which is found in olive oil. So anything in the realm of oils is really important. Our body is mostly made up of fat. Every cell in our body has a fat membrane. So it's important that we are eating fat. Now you think, okay, hey, Dr. Valentine, what happens? I eat more fat, my cholesterol level goes up. Well, in reality, it doesn't. It goes down. And the research, and you might have heard of this, Atkins, Dr. Atkins, who passed away, had that high-fat, low-protein diet. Okay. So anyways, what we're going to do is just talk about a couple things like adrenal dysfunction. That's common. That causes increased cortisol level. Cortisol is really bad because now we get issues with the thyroid, the whole thyroid picture. and your gut health, which we just talked about. Whether you have a tendency towards constipation or diarrhea, irritable bowel-like type of symptoms, that's an indication of thyroid. So whatever we could do to help you, we're here to help guide you. The whole nutritional component is to get you functioning well, to get you healthy. You can turn around and get healthy. There's a lot of different testimonials we have on thyroid patients that we've taken care of over the years. Great testimonials. And at any time, you can always contact us and sit down. We can do a nutritional consult with you. We do run specialized blood tests, and every time we do blood tests, we have a tendency to improve upon what are we looking for, because there's so many connections as to blood work. But typically speaking, when you go to your doctor and you think you're having a comprehensive blood work, it's really limited. Limited in the sense that they got to go by what we call Medicare standards. We don't do that. We just do a full panel. We're looking at all the thyroid markers. We're looking at all the inflammatory markers. We want what's best for you. So if we can help, you give us a call, 714-964-9566. Or please like and share this. I plan on doing these Facebook Live events every week, so if you got any comments, you got anything that you would like us to really address, we will address that for you. But we wanted to talk about the 6 essential things that you need to do in order to have a healthy thyroid. Foods, which was a key one. 2, your blood sugar. 3, having good vitamin D levels. 4, plenty of omega-3s, and we also have that, of course, in nutritional support. So if you're not eating fish, then you got to get it from supplement form. 5, get those adrenals under control. The adrenals are all about inflammation, all about our neurotransmitter, which is our mood. And then 6 is the gut health. So we plan probably breaking these down a little bit and go more in depth with each one. But for now, we're ending this, and you have a great Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you next week.